Hey everybody, this is Justin Coleman, aka Wow That Itches, live here, well I guess pre-recorded from the Matrix Theater in the heart of downtown Detroit. I am here with Marisa Dluge, and she's here to tell us today about a little bit about the Matrix Theater. If you guys want to come on out, a great place to see shows. Marisa?
Yeah, so Matrix Theater, I've been here since 2020. I was hired right at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, which was interesting, but also a really cool time to come into this space. While a lot of spaces were questioning the importance of art, non-essential nature of art, Matrix made it very clear that art and just telling stories about what people were going through, human experiences, pretty much staying on mission, they decided, that was equally as important and essential, especially when getting people through a pandemic or anything as globally and socially traumatizing as a pandemic can be. So I was pretty lucky that I got to come in when the theater was really showing its true colors during a time of intense perseverance, which I thought was pretty amazing. There were other arts organizations I worked with that just didn't quite have that support or didn't quite have that vision. So I think I'm pretty lucky, and I was pretty grateful to come in during that time. Matrix has been here since 1991. In fact, the first full project that I did here was our 30th anniversary, which was so cool to come into a project that was celebrating the longevity of this space and all of the theater and all the creativity and everything that it's given to the community. So, 1991. It was started by Sean Nethercott, and they began as a puppet theater, which is super cool. You can see a puppet hanging out with me over here. And we have puppets spread all over the space, puppets from shows, puppets from classes and workshops and community events. They're just such a huge part of our history, so they are smattered and part of the space all over. We still do workshops and occasional educational series about puppets and using puppets with our students or with other educators, working with educators and puppets. But we've transitioned a bit over the years, less focused on puppet theater being our main productions, and now we do professional productions 3 to 4 a year, and then we have space for other artists to come in and use our space as renters or collaborators. We incubate new work. We do residencies with artists in the city and in Southeast Michigan. We do 2 festivals a year promoting solo performance and film in the city. So we've really transitioned from using puppets being our main creative offering and kind of just expanded to letting all types of theater and all types of performance be how we spread our mission. And what our mission has been from the very beginning is using theater as a means of transformation and social justice. And I could just keep going with how much I love this theater or how much our mission means to us. But mainly when we think about how theater functions and social justice, we think about it not only as the subject matter for our pieces and our work, but also we use it as our value system and our mission. So social justice in terms of how we hire, how we treat people, how we treat our artists. We make it very clear that our priority is the artists living in this city, when a lot of work gets, I don't want to say exported, but I guess that's the best word I can think of right now. When artists get imported from other cities because they don't think the talent exists here, or artists leave because there's no consistent jobs to have. We have made working specifically with Detroit artists, working specifically within our community to be one of our main values. So making sure there's creative jobs here and making sure those jobs are focused on the artists that are living and working here. That's a huge part of our value system. So that's big. Paying our artists is always our top priority. We're a small organization, so that doesn't mean we're always the highest paying organization. But when we do come to a program or a project, how we pay our artists, how we compensate our artists is always the top priority. It is always the number one line item in our budgets, is how do we give that money first to the people who are making this work happen, the people who are lending their creativity, their ideas, their innovation, their everything. So yeah, when we talk about social justice, it's not just like our subject matter, right? Like it's not just the shows we do or the what we're talking about on stage. It's also how we're functioning as an organization. Yeah, I feel like I'm on a tangent a little bit.
No. You actually touched on something that's very near and dear to my heart, right?
Yeah.
So I was drawn to Detroit by the overwhelming amount of opportunity here. I'm not a native. I'm a transplant from Chicagoland.
Cool.
Fell in love with the city. Been here now, 13, 14 years.
Nice. Oh, awesome. Well, then you're here. Come on now.
Yeah, I'm permanently here.
Right.
But one of the things you touched on was artist opportunity, and I don't know if you want to talk on this. We can always edit it out if you don't. The Detroit mural scandal, where we had artists coming in from outside of Detroit to paint large murals, and now after there was some public outcry, those artists are actually not getting paid now.
Yeah, City Council did vote on that. And I have to be totally transparent. That is something I'm not well versed enough on. And it's not even a no comment thing. Like, it was something that I like truly earmarked in my articles yesterday and today, and was like, oh, I need to be more familiar about this, especially since, and I think this is worth talking about because it's just going to have to come up. We got a grant to do a Devise show, one of our first Devise shows. So just really running about real quick. Devise theater is basically just theater that doesn't come originally from one script, right? So if we're putting on a show, it's pulling in different source material, writing, news, music. Like, it's building a performance based on a concept or based on one piece of literature or a headline. So something like this would be perfect, or just an idea or something. So it's not necessarily, it can still have narrative arc and all that good stuff, but you're not starting with a script as your main source material, essentially. So we run all of our School of Education programs using Devise Theater. So all of our kiddos, when they make theater, they all make Devise Theater, which is so cool. We don't hand them the scripts. They write their performances. They write their scripts. They make everything themselves. They pull in their own writing. They pull in songs they like. We really focus on using that for our kiddos to explore theater as an idea and performance as a bigger concept. So a couple years ago, we started saying like, oh, why doesn't Matrix produce their own Devise show every year? Because we're already teaching it. We might as well be doing our own Devise pieces. So we got a grant to do our very first Devise show. And the subject matter is Detroit murals. So that's what we got approved for. That's what the show's going to be about. It's coming up it's going to open our new season in our 24-25 season in the fall. So that conversation's it's going to be in there. It's going to be a big part of it, because that's huge. I mean, I don't know all the details of this conversation yet either, but many years ago, we were a part of another public art scandal or conversation when the street artist Banksy did a piece on the Packard plant wall, and then I'm going to forget the name of the gallery. I think it was Gallery 414. I believe that's it.
We can always add it as
yeah,
an
exactly.
overlay.
It was a gallery in Detroit, a small gallery. I'd been there before. I'd done workshops there before, and I don't know all of the legality that ended up shaking out, but I know that it was a huge controversy because this piece was moved from the Packard plant to the gallery, and then the conversation became, instead of it being out in public for everyone to observe and interact with the way that artist had intended it to be, suddenly it was in walls, and you could only see it when the gallery was open, and to a certain extent it was being gatekept by the theater, or not the theater, I'm sorry, the gallery. So I think like that's so hard, like public art and who owns public art and what is like, is it Detroit art because it's in Detroit? Does it need to be made by people who live here? Should those commissions have gone to, you know what I mean? Like these are all conversations I think we're always going to be having. And I'm not excited. I'm excited to dive into this conversation because we're going to be immersed in it really quickly.
Yeah. For those of you who aren't aware, Detroit is the home of Motown.
Yeah, it is.
Detroit is the home of Ted Nugent and Madonna.
Oh, Lord, Ted Nugent. But yes, Madonna. No, I'm just kidding. Keep going.
We'll say Kid Rock, but we know he's from Romeo. But also EDM started here. So why is it important for art to be held in Detroit? Because Detroit has always created art.
Always.
When the city became abandoned in 2008, when I first started coming here, you would see these skyscrapers covered from top to bottom, just in the most wonderful street art. And I had the pleasure of speaking with Emerge, who's a street artist out in Miami who travels the globe doing graffiti. And we talked about, about his work down there and traveling and doing the graffiti work. Street art has been a very relevant portion of bringing back life to Detroit, I would say.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, if you drive down Grand River now, all you see is just the most wonderful murals on some of the most dilapidated buildings to bring the prettiness back to Detroit. Yeah. Detroit is a city that's like full of muscle and self-preservation.
Ooh, grit. People use the word grit, and I'm like, yes, grit.
Like one of the most dangerous areas is 7 Mile in Detroit. Sure. And when the police abandoned 7 Mile, we now have New Era, which I fully support, New Era and 300, making sure that women can get gas when they're coming home from work. Sure. Able to get their groceries without getting robbed. And so that's why, to me, it's very important for us to hold on to our legacy, our preserve our heritage here in Detroit about being creators, because some of your favorite creators, for those of you who are watching, are from here.
Hell yeah, they are. This is just a quick anecdote, but my heart started singing when I was watching the Emmys the other day, and Sam Richardson, who's from Detroit, did the show Detroiters, yes, was on stage and accepting his award for, I think it was for Ted Lasso. He was like a guest star in Ted Lasso. But the last thing he said was, "Go Lions." And I was like, yes, like this is, I think when you're from here, or when your heart is connected to Detroit, you never let that go. Like I truly, every artist that I can think of that left and, made it big somewhere else has connections still to the city. They are still giving back. I think of Jack White. I even think of like Sam Richardson and Tim Robinson, who are, giving so much money to youth performance and improv programs here. Like I can think of a couple other cities that are definitely the same. Atlanta, comes to mind. But Detroit is just one of those cities that it's people, you can leave and come back. This is your home. And no matter if you go somewhere else to, make it big or get rich or whatever, all of those people still have like strings and want to see the city thrive. And I think that's so special. Like, and I'm sure other people feel that way about their cities, but this is ours, so it's fine. We're special. We can be special, whatever.
That's right. We have Faygo.
We got Better Made. Arguably, Fago. Okay, so Verner's is the one and only ginger ale, of course. But other than that, they got all the other good pops on lock. We got pop, not soda.
Not soda here. Definitely. The theater is actually located, and if I get this incorrect, I'll cut it out. But this used to be Mexican Village.
We're in Mexican Town.
Mexican Town.
Yep,
Okay,
right now.
my apologies. Yes.
No.
And so we, wonderful, thriving area. This used to be considered like one of the worst areas in Detroit, but now we have Honeybee Comida. We have lovely murals for blocks and blocks.
I think like a lot of the neighborhoods in the city, right? Like, I think this white flight, definitely a thing, right? And I think what happened in a lot of ways is that these neighborhoods kind of hunkered down to weather the storm, right? To get through the winter, the long winter of just like not having that economic support from the rest of the state, from tourism, just from, just not having it. And like, Southwest is an old neighborhood. It is like we are situated in a neighborhood of homes that have been in families for generations. Families who have deep, deep roots live in Southwest. We're right near the border, so that's like you look out our front window and you can see the Ambassador Bridge, and I think that colors a lot of the experience of the residents in our neighborhood. But the people in this neighborhood are like their roots are deep here. They're very deep, and that's kind of what makes me so proud to be in a theater that's been here for 30 plus years. It's like 30 years sometimes feels like scratching the surface of how long and wonderful like the heritage of this community is. It's incredible. Like I feel like a noob every time I walk into a group of organizers or creatives because they all know each other. They've been doing work with, like I worked with your mom. I work, like it's all these connections that are, 20, 30, 40 years old, and people who are like, oh yes, I work for this person now and he used to be my high school teacher. And I just think that's so beautiful. And like so many neighborhoods in this city, like it feels like they were abandoned, but I don't think they were. I think a lot of the economic stimulus left, and then the people that are here really, like I said a second ago, like hunkered down for the long winter. And because to say that they were like left or abandoned is just not true, because I see so many families here who just like this is their home, and it always has been. And it's hard too, because like there's organizations that come in and there's this sense of reviving, but it looks sometimes like saving. And I think things like this, shining spotlights on this community and letting the people who are here and working and living speak about their experiences, I think that's how you revive neighborhoods, and is to focus on the stories and the people who are here doing the thing. It's so fascinating to hear the conversations about like the train station just a little bit over here, and what that means and looks like, and the complications and the feelings attached to that. And I think like everything, it's all very complex, and it's a beautiful story. So using more opportunities like this to get those perspectives and get those narratives, I think is the way you breathe life into spaces again.
Yeah, and especially with Detroit being named 2024 tourist destination. It's always been, don't go, you'll die. Top 10 dangerous city in the planet. And it's like, well, we have the NFL draft coming here. We even have a Gucci store downtown.
Yeah, we do.
You know you have to be fearful of getting robbed at the Gucci store, mostly because of the high prices.
Not outside the Shinola. Oh no.
So for the sake of time,
course.
it's you have about 7 minutes.
Great.
Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we just hit some spots in the theater? Anything you wanted to highlight? Did you want to talk about the kid stuff, like the children?
Yeah, you know what? I can just like run through some of our programs real quick because we got an exciting year coming up, and because why not do a little promotion? Shameless self-promotion, I think they call it. Okay. So we have a multi-dimensional theater here. It has kind of like two main arms to it, the production and then the School of Theater. And School of Theater, we do youth classes, 6-year-olds to 13-year-olds, and we do those once a season. So we have fall classes, and then we have winter spring classes. So we're just about to start a winter spring classes. And then we have a 2-week summer camp. Our 2-week summer camp is incredible. It is 2 weeks of just creative exploration. We set a couple of tenets for what our goals are for our students, because like I said, we're a device-based and a creativity-based camp, program, not necessarily technique. We're not going to teach you how to deliver your monologue the best or train you how to do musical theater. That's not quite our jam. We have some really awesome neighbors that way, Mosaic Youth Theater, if your kid wants to do like technique-based theater. But we're the theater that's exploring your kids' creative confidence, right? Like our goal is to send those kids back to school in the fall with a sense of autonomy and excitement about their ideas, about their critical thinking, about problem solving, about working together. They are with kids from schools and districts all over the city. So some of them are their classmates, but many of them they only see once a summer. Or like a lot of our kids, their kids stay in our programs to stay connected to the students and the friends that they've made at camp and in other classes. So our kiddos, I guess, where our focus is to make sure that their imagination and their creativity and their confidence in those two things is strong when they leave us after our classes and after our 2 weeks. We are starting a adult version of our classes in the February too. That class is for 18 and up, anybody over 18, and it's called Intro to Social Justice Theater. And basically what we're going to do is spend 6 weeks exploring alternative types of theater that you can use to do social justice work. So we're working with theater of the oppressed, we're working with neo-futurism, we're working with playback theater, we're working with artifact theater, basically all of the types of theater that are non-traditional in order to use those types of theater to like spread a social justice message, and how to like use those types of theater to talk about really complicated things, and basically just have some control and some artistic control over everything that's happening around us. So that class starts in February for adults. It's going to be awesome. We have some amazing guest speakers and guest artists coming, professors. They are professors in real life, but they're just going to come and guest lecture for us. But we have professors coming from Eastern and Wayne State and U of M, and they're going to, give a very personal experience to our adults, which is super cool. And then all of our productions, like this weekend, so awesome. Ziggy Klett, who we've worked with we met him at our solo performance festival 2 years ago, and his show was so incredible, and we had such a good connection that when he decided to come back to Detroit to do a show, he was like, you guys, you're the ones we want to work with. So we were more than happy to bring him back in. We have a show called Material Advantage by Detroit playwright Sean Paraventi. That goes up in March. Brand new show, and that one is very much about what we've been talking about, legacy and history and family and housing. It is very much about like those neighborhoods that feel from an outsider to be neglected or abandoned. But then we're telling the story about a house in one of those cities or in one of those neighborhoods that from an outsider looks that way, but it is deeply important to this family. So amazing show going up in March. I think that's all I have. Yeah. I could talk forever about this theater. I love it so much.
All right, everyone, thank you for watching. We'll do a little bit more about the theater because there's a ton of information here. A wonderful place. Marisa Dluge, they are a wonderful person and truly appreciate you giving us your time to tell us about your passion here and why you love Detroit and why you love the theater. Thank you all for tuning in. Remember to like and subscribe. And of course, come down to the Matrix Theater located on Bagley Street in the heart of downtown Detroit.
Yes.